and to all of those who are helping us fight the coronavirus, our deepest respect to you all. We all hope together we can come above this situation we're in, and really move toward another, era in our history. So let's roll to our conversation for this week and understand what our topic is and what we can learn. Welcome, everyone, to another conversation. Today, we're looking at something which, we've all struggled with at some point in our lives, whether it be fortunately or unfortunately. Usually, it's unfortunately, we experience this emotion, we go back to our desk or we go back to our home, our bedroom, and we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say, why did I do that? Why did I think in that way? How can I, stop myself in the future maybe? And this word, when I say it to some of us, makes us feel very unhappy. It reminds us of things which have happened in the past, perhaps, or it gives us this sense of fear of, I don't want to be like that in the future. We're all human beings trying to live in this very vast world, and sometimes the world doesn't really agree with us. And unfortunately, there's a way to react to that. Today, we're talking about that thing. Our topic today is understanding anger. And, this is something which is obviously very dear to my heart as well. This is something I personally think about a lot as well. Just because I'm interviewing someone or just because I, try to share my thoughts on this platform with you all, it does not mean I do not struggle with any of the things that we talk about. I struggle with all of those things, I can definitely assure you. So today, what I'd like to do is understand how I and how we listening can understand what anger is and how to address anger in our personal lives through not only the experiences of our very lovely speaker who's going to join us in a moment, but also through the medium of Vihangam Yoga, the ocean and the science of spirituality. So, hopefully by the end of this conversation, you'll have something to take away and apply back to your life, whether it be at work, at university, whichever place you are in the world. Hopefully, you have something you can take away. So that's our promise to you. And please do let us know by the end or whenever you get the chance, do let us know if we've given you something to think about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Sri Lalit Gunjanji from India. Lalit Gunjanji is a instructor of Vihangam Yoga and also a professional in the financial services industry. From what I understand, he's currently acting as a CTO at Kapil Tech in Mumbai. I'm really excited to have him on board with us today. I hope you can hear my voice, Lalitji.
Absolutely, I can hear Avi. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for joining us today. So, Lalitji, I wanted to start, first from, there's so many different kinds of things that come to mind when we start to think about anger. Um, and it's obviously something which is difficult to sometimes understand. Um, you know, Whether it be, just in terms of how you personally think about it, or in reference to how, other things of, whether it be not even yourself or people in your own life, how do you personally think about anger? Like, what do you believe the source of anger actually is in life?
I think anger is something that does not require any introduction from any of us, actually. We all, as you rightly said, at some point of time or other, we have ourselves experienced this thing called anger. To me, whatever behaviors, whatever we have expected from someone, whether there are wants that we have, and if it doesn't happen in that way, that is when you feel angry. You think that it didn't come through the way you wanted it to come, whether it is a person, it's a situation, it's a thing, it can be anything, but you had an expectation, a certain expectation set out of it. This is how it should come to you, and it didn't, is when you become angry. Uh, so yeah, that's the basic notion. If I can just put these introductory words to you.
Yes, absolutely. And it really does make you reflect on those times that perhaps even in my personal life when I haven't been as happy with someone, it's definitely come down to expectations. And I'd love to dig into that a bit more in terms of understanding the source of these things. When we think about expectations and how we hold expectations of people in different points of our lives, like, what is your personal take on that entire interaction? Like, do you think it's justified for us to have expectations of people, or should we live a life where we don't expect anything of anyone? Is there a middle ground, perhaps? What is your personal take on that?
Hmm. Um, okay, so in Vihangam Yoga, or for that matter, any of the yogic practices or ancient wisdom that we refer to, everyone is expected to reach the state of equanimity, the equanimous state that you arrive in, where you don't get hurt by anyone else's opinions, justifications, jurisdictions, their judgments, their comparisons. I mean, you reach to a very different level where probably you cross the boundaries of pain and pleasure both. So yes, that's the destination. So to answer your question whether you should have an expectation or not in a certain way, well, ideally you shouldn't, maybe, but is that possible for you? I believe no. So let's probably, that's a theoretical question for me. Practically, yes, you love someone, you have some expectations. You hate someone, you have some expectations that he will behave in a certain way. So expectations are part and parcel of who you are. That's very much part of who you are, and hence it will come. Now, it is important that we manage it in a certain way. It cannot be uncontrolled, and that is what people say, that you learn through experiences, you learn through others' experiences, you try understanding it through the scriptures, the ancient scriptures. You try to understand that every human is different. All of us are different. And there is a certain way we all think. Someone else thinking in a certain way, which is different from me or my thought process, is pretty much normal. But what I usually, I think and I want someone else also to behave exactly the way I behave, for example. And that is where the problem is. There is a funny way of saying that when you are in love with someone, um, you come close, you usually don't see at what that person is not. You usually see what that person is, and you get in love for those attributes of that person. Now, as soon as you get married, you start seeing at the other side of that person, and you believe that that is not the way it should be, and you say that, hey, why don't you change? And you change and you change, and the funniest pinnacle of all of it is that finally you say that, hey, you are a changed person. So that's a funnier interpretation of something that I expect from some other person. So to answer your question in a single line, to me it is between these two boundaries, two extremes that you spoke of, somewhere in middle, where you give a space to other person also, while obviously you have your own space, and try understanding that that can be perfectly fine, that can be another point of view, and there is nothing right or wrong, it's just another view, and you should embrace as it is. So that's my take on your question, Navi.
Thank you. Yeah, that's such a beautiful perspective, and I love the example you gave. Because even in friendship, we see this where, you may become friends with someone because you have a shared interest, you have maybe a shared passion for something. And then when you go to the restaurant afterwards and you start to discuss other aspects of life, perhaps you see that you don't see the same, you're not on the same page on some things that are dear to you, perhaps, or dear to them. And then, it's a matter of you enter this world of trying to manage the expectations you have of the other person. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I think you've given us a lot to think about there. And you mentioned something there about equanimity, or however you are meant to pronounce. I can't honestly pronounce that word well, but that word is so important, particularly to people who are trying to become more, let's say, they're trying to master their self more in life, whether they're managers in the professional world, trying to be a better friend to someone, they have a younger brother or sister, whatever situation it is. It seems like equanimity is a very important quality, and I was wondering if you could touch on that a bit more. Like, how do we define that? Even if it's considering a spiritual context as well. Like, how would we define that? And would it be accurate to say that equanimity is the opposite of anger?
Well, equanimity is probably not opposite to anything. It's a state beyond all opposites. This world is governed by the law of duality, which you all live in. So yes, anger has its opposite. Maybe you can call it peace or maybe pleasure. That's closest to antonyms that I can think of. But there are few things which are beyond all dualism that exists in this world. The bliss, Anand, which we call in Eastern teachings. Equanimity is something that naturally culminates into Anand. So to me, equanimity doesn't have any opposite, and hence certainly it is not opposite of anger. A lot of other things like lust, the ego, and everything all together, all of these together, they are gotten rid of to finally acquire that final coveted state of equanimity. So that's a beautiful state. To understand a little more, and I'm not sure if this is the right most juncture, because probably we would have gone through a couple of more things. But since you have asked, let me give a quick touch on that. Samatvam Yog Uchyate is how our ancient sciences talk about it. So to acquire that state is the zenith of this journey, is the final peak where we want to reach. So it's like think of two sides of two attributes of a person. So there is one attribute where he is less confident, he is not confident, right? And there is another side where he is overconfident, he is highly confident of whatever he is doing. Now, both of these, we understand that they're not right qualities. If you are not very confident, you don't have right spirits to complete a work. And as soon as you are very confident, overly confident, then you tend to acquire this another property called ego, right? So either you are not capable, you are not finding yourself capable, or you are thinking that you are so capable that entire world is kind of under your feet. Now, Adhyatma says that Ati Sarvatra Varjayat. Both of these will lead you nowhere. These are two sides of one thing called pain and pleasure. Even the pleasures, as they say, that they will also finally culminate into a pain. Any sukha, any pleasure of this world finally culminates into a pain. It's part of a larger pain chain. So that pain needs to go, which is what every spiritual teaching tries to attack. Every spiritual teaching wants you to get completely out of the cycle of pain, the pain chain that we all are encased into from eons and from lifetimes, right? So how to do that? What do you do? That is where the philosophies of the highest form of yoga comes in picture, which we call Vihangam Yoga. Vihangam Yoga is not like another bodily or mental exercise, and that we'll touch a little later. But just to tell you that it is important that you transcend beyond the levels of your mind and life forces. That's a very secretive, and it's a very different world in a way, right? And in that state, you you go into a very different zone. You are beyond the law of duality. You are not governed. You are a different world. You are a different realm altogether, where the rules of this world that you know of doesn't apply. And it's very difficult to explain that to you in words. And as I said, probably we'll take it a little later. But for us, it's like a different world where these laws don't apply. You are into a different state, and that state is equanimous state altogether. It is not something to, it is not a path, it's not a process. It's a destination in itself. You have reached into a different zone. You are there, and you are beyond all of it. How to explain that? It's like you live that, and once you live in that world, you know the attached peace and harmony and the ultimate bliss that you are into through that state. So yes, that's the most coveted state of a human birth. I mean, that's where you want to reach. That's the equanimous state that I am referring to, Abhi.
Gee, yes, that's such a beautiful thing to even think about, that it's even possible. And, I think it's something which perhaps each of us have innately have a desire to understand even more, because as you mentioned so beautifully, there is this law of duality that binds everything we do. And, kind of limited by that, perhaps we're unable to find a consistent source of happiness or bliss in this world. So I'd definitely like to discuss that more as we move forward. That would be lovely. But at this point, one thing I did want to delve into is you mentioned that there's this distinction between, living in this world and aiming for this destination, which we're going to dig into more in a moment as well, as you mentioned. But if we first look at living in this world and what we have to deal with in terms of anger. So there's two kinds of scenarios, and I wanted to go into both of them in sequence. Maybe we'll go with the first one first, just so that all of our listeners, and myself included, we can really pick up on the takeaways. So the first would be, let's say I'm angry at someone. So perhaps my younger cousin or sister or brother, perhaps they did something that made me unhappy. What should I do now that I am angry, and perhaps I want to control my anger? Perhaps I am aware of it, that it's there, but I don't know what to do about it. So what should I do in this scenario? Like, what would your personal suggestion be based on your experience with this concept and with spirituality?
So the first thing that you should, so the situation that you have given, I'll say this is most prominent state. There can be a couple of other scenarios of anger, but let's pick up this one. And to tackle this, I think it's fairly easier. What you should do in this situation, you should pause for a moment. That one moment will give you so much of power. Just pause for a moment and take a deep breath in, as deep as you can. Please understand, the mind and the forces of your life, what we call prana, or more obvious one, it's not exactly that one, but yeah, kind of correlated, is the breath. So mind and breath are very closely related. So as soon as you are angry, if you have ever noticed, you will see your breath will be heavier, it will become faster. You will be breathing in and out very shallowly. To make it even more clear, if you look at a lion, a tiger, and look at a cow, a lion is the ferocious animal that he is. He will always be angry. And if you look at him, he will be like breathing in and out very vigorously, very fast. While a cow, she will be calm, she will be chewing her food calmly, and her breath will be very controlled, very rhythmic, very, I'll say, deep, slow. So if you are angry as a human, so all of us, you observe yourself for yourself. So normally right now, you are breathing in and out, you are not noticing. If you notice right now, there is a certain pace at which you are breathing. Whenever you get angry, the pace becomes vigorous. You start breathing heavily, faster. Okay? This happens automatically, without you noticing it even. But the good news is that you can change it. The breath is something that you can change. We have all control on. For example, you don't have control over your heartbeats on your own, but you have a control on your breath. You can take breathe in, breathe out, faster, slower. So if I want to control my anger, the first thing I should do, I should make my breath deep. So as soon as you take a deep breath in and out, you will get that slight power on yourself, on your anger. Now, it's like a cascading effect. So now you are a little more powerful. So take another deep breath in and out if you can. In that heat of moment, if you can do that. Second and third, by then you will have complete required control on yourself. You can still go out and express your anger, but that will be in a controlled manner. You will not have the devastating effects which it can have otherwise. So what you acquire by doing this is amazing control on yourself. So first step, pause for a moment. Second step, take a deep breath in and out. And second extension, take another deep breath in and out, maybe third. If you can do that, you're already out of it. So even if you could take only one, it is still okay, right? But at least you are a little more control. And then the third point, when you quickly get reminded of, just remind yourself that it's not going to help you. There's nothing that is, what are you going to achieve out of it? There's nothing that you can do. Not that you can do by, anger can only make it worse. Whoever you are angry with, there is a reason why there is some relation, and that relation will only get spoiled. You are getting reminded of this in that heat of moment. That's the power of that one pause and one breath. So as soon as you are reminded, you will have again more control. As I said, it's a cascading effect. You'll have more control. You are more controlled. And then the fourth thing, which I would like to touch here only, please understand, it is very, very powerful statement that nothing in this world can happen to you, which is not because of you or not for you. I repeat, and I repeat in different way. Everything in this world happens to you because of you or for you. Everything that happens to me happens because of me or for me. And that's the law of karma. Any deed that I perform will bear fruit. All that I do will bear fruit, whether right or wrong. Anything good that I do, I'll bear good fruits out of it, sweet fruits out of it. Anything bad that I do, I'll bear the bad fruits out of it. There is no algebraic sum. I repeat, there is no resultant, net resultant. Please understand this. It's a very, very powerful mantra. Anything right that you do, you will reap right benefits. Anything wrong that you do, you will reap wrong benefits. Both of it you will reap. So usually there is a concept when you say that I'll do 10 things wrong. Usually one of the spiritual teachings, I mean, at least that I am aware of, when it is said that you do whatever wrong throughout your life, and finally you say 3 times that, yeah, please pardon, pardon, pardon me. And you believe that you are pardoned. And then I'll be in the right place when I die, and things like that. Please understand, it's a misconception. It's a disastrous statement. Doesn't say the law of karma. Law of karma says that anything right that you have done, the 10 things right that you did, 10 things wrongs that you did in your lifetime, those 10 wrong results will be produced in your lifetime or beyond. And then you did one thing right, you will reap right, sweet benefits out of that also. So you will get both of it, 10 wrong and 1 right, and so on and so forth. Which means anything that I do, I reap benefits for sure. Which means that anything wrong that I have done in past, I am going to get those come true in my life in some complicated equated form. So equation can be, there is a resultant of anything that I do, any result that I receive in my life is a resultant of what I have done in past, which becomes my fortune, and what I'm doing right now. There is a complicated equation that governs this function of, x and y, the current karma and the past karma. These together, the function of this is a complicated equation which results in my life as a result. So whatever has happened, I cannot change, obviously. But whatever can happen now or in future is completely in my control. I am the person who can change it. I am the person whose doings result in my life. No XYZ can do anything that results in my life. Please understand it very strongly. If you know this, if you understand this, nothing in this world will perturb your peace of mind ever. Please understand, nothing in this world, no one in this world has a power to control your life but you. So all the karma that I have done, I'll be getting results of that only. No one else can do any wrong karma to me. No one else can do any right karma for me. So right now, if someone is getting angry at me, it's not he doing. He's just a tool. My karma is coming back to me. Its reflections are just showing on to me. That person you remove from the frame, some other person will come, some other situation will come, and that result has to come in my life. If I try avoiding, the time value of that karma will get attached, as is attached the time value of money, which is obviously higher, right? So you will get greater pain if you try to avoid the pain that you are inflicted by a karma. So that's when the wise people, they embrace their karma, and hence the results which are, or the pains which are coming in their lives right now with a broad smile on their face, knowing that it is, thank God, one more bad karma has already passed now. All that I am left with a little more good karma, because now I'm not doing any bad karma, right? So that's the power you can bring in your life also while dealing with as simple as anger, as simple a thing as anger. Right? So fourth thing that you should be aware of is that all that is coming to me is my doing only. Okay, so I don't need to be worried about it. Last, the fifth thing in this series, please understand, nothing in this world comes to me without my permission. So I don't permit you. If I don't give permission, nothing will come to me. So I pray prayers, any and every religion, any spiritual practice, they have always been greatly influenced by the power of prayers. So I pray. I don't allow something else to arrive in my life. I pray and say that whatever has come, I know it is my karma. Please empower me, strengthen me to be strong here, to be able to receive this inflection onto me and not retort, not react. I live my life on actions, not based on reactions. I don't want to react. A reaction is never good. I only act, I don't react. That's the kind of power I generate by prayers. So I pray to whoever I love, whoever the almighty power that I believe in, knowing very well that nothing can happen to me if I would not have been in that kind of vulnerability. What I mean by, let me explain in by example. It is said that a non-violent person cannot be killed by violence. So if anger is coming to me, it is certain that a certain amount of anger is residing right within me, or the karma related to that anger is residing inside me. Hence, anger is coming to me. By whoever, that person is immaterial. The subjects are immaterial. Me and whatever is coming on to me are the reflections of my own karmas, right? So I haven't become non-violent. I am still someone who has anger within me, which is reflecting. The day I am rid of anger, no one can be angry with me. That's the power of karma. That's the beautiful wisdom from Eastern philosophies that I can share with you guys, share with all of you. Please understand, nothing in this world comes to you without your participation. And if you can seize your participation in the events of creation, you have stopped that particular progression for sure. To reach to the state where we don't participate in any of these parcels of creation is again called the state of equanimity, where we all want to reach through the principles of Vihangam Yoga, through the practices of Vihangam Yoga. Over to you.
Yes, thank you. That's such a fantastic set of steps you've given us there. I was definitely paying more attention to my breathing just as you were speaking there. So that's fantastic. Yeah, I think definitely having having thought about these things in the past and having discussed these things with Laliti in the past as well in our own kind of interactions. I can definitely vouch for all the steps which Laliti just conveyed. Having practiced it myself, for myself personally, I find myself in in quite a fast-paced work professional environment, as Lalit does as well. And I can definitely say that when things are getting a little perhaps tense in the meeting, or when things are getting a little out of control, just taking that extra breath or pausing for a moment definitely helps. And then all of the steps which come, further to that, of understanding what is being taught to us rather than what is being done to us, is so transformational. So I think definitely, if I could even from my side express to everyone, including myself, I think that's a very important point that we should keep in mind. And Lalaji, you started to go into some of the concepts of Vihangam Yoga there. So I figured, why don't we, go deeper into that now and understand, if I could ask one very, let's say, one particular thing, it would be, if you look at your own personal life and having been a practitioner and instructor of Vihangam Yoga for many years, how has it helped you, work on your own kind of awareness of anger and how you personally manage anger? How does it help, and what does it do to a person in that situation?
Right. Uh, in the science of Vihangam Yoga, our master always says that uh, preach what you practice, else you don't preach. So trust that everything that I said is something that by all master's intervention and his great teachings, I have been able to experience it for myself. Um, that experience is the greatest teacher, as they say. And yeah, I have been, and trust that not only me, I have seen there are millions out there who are reaping benefits. We keep meeting. I personally, I think I have met thousands of people uh, over a course of new course of maybe a decade that I have been roaming around, understanding and trying to, kind of explain this philosophy of Vihangam Yoga. So these changes are something that have come in my life also. In fact, if I can be a little more, I'll say, funny, I'll say that I used to be called an angry young man in my family. So I used to be very, very angry, and any small disturbance would perturb my peace of mind, and I'll be like furious completely. I was wondering why it is so, but that's the way it was. And all the teachings that uh, even what I spoke about were not helping me, because the words are limited and words cannot change you. Please understand. So anything and everything that we are talking about here, if it is not backed by the practice of Vihangam Yoga, the meditation practice that we do regularly, trust that it will be very difficult to bring in that change, that transformation in your life. That practice empowers you. That energy which dawns into you is something which empowers you. We have become very feeble. We are weak. You're not able to do anything on your own. It's very difficult. So I know, I mean, whatever I said is something that comes under all cognitive therapies, the CBT that they call cognitive behavioral therapies. So they all teach you. How many of us actually permanently get rid of it until the anger has gone to a very different level where it can be called a mental disorder? Please understand, usually anger is not a mental disorder as such, but when it breaches the the quantum, which is called sanity. Obviously, it is then part of a mental disorder, and then there are cognitive therapies that people use to, that psychologists and psychiatrists use to treat you. Even they teach some of these techniques, and under their close supervision, obviously you reap benefits also. But you don't go to a psychiatrist every day. You can't, and you shouldn't, right? The idea is to imbibe these principles in your lives. The idea is to make this way of your living. And that is when I would like to uh, be emphatic about saying that please embrace this science of Vihangam Yoga. It's a beautiful science. It's not an art in the sense that it's not something that will happen to someone only if these conditions are met. Um, it's a science, so it will come true to you, to all of us, even if you are sitting on Mars. Yes, there are some STP conditions that you have to meet, but they are very prescriptory in nature. They are something that can be prescribed to any human. It is not dependent on a certain type of human, okay? Which is why it is a science. So I personally, I started practicing this meditation uh, long ago, and to tell you that I would, me being a scientific mind, I have always been measuring my progress. So on anger front, I can say that I had started seeing a great benefit in 3-4 months time of regular practice of meditation. So whatever I said, those 5 steps that we spoke about, you pause momentarily. I'll just repeat those 5 steps for our benefit so that we can understand the other parts that I'm trying to bring around that um, chakra formation, if I want to call it. The first is pause for a moment. Second, you breathe in, breathe out. Take a deep breath in and out. Third is being aware of it not going to reap you benefits in a right way, because it is only going to make the situation worse and the relations worse. So you are more aware. The third thing is awareness. The fourth is being aware of the science of karma behind it. So knowing that it is my karma, I am responsible, it has come to me, thank God it is going away, and I'll be rid of it. So that's fourth. And fifth is the power of prayers. You need to, and what I said is that you should be able to quickly grab all these 5 things together whenever you are getting angry in that heat of moment. But is that so easy? Is that not? Anyone else have tried this? I believe there will be many. The way it will start reaping benefits to you actually is by making yourself spiritual. Until you spend a moment for yourself, until you start your inner journey, until you rid yourself for some time, at least every day, for your own true self, trust that in that heat of moment you will lose the battle. You will not be able to achieve that. The moment comes and you drop your Gandiv. If you know of the story of Mahabharata, where Arjuna, the greatest warrior of his time, as soon as Mahabharata war, the greatest war that world has ever fought, the battalions are on the opposite wings, opposite sides, and suddenly the great warrior Arjuna, who used to be the greatest archer of his time, his bow, his string, the bow just slips from his hand. His bow used to be called Gandiv. So he's saying that I can't fight. There are my owns in that side of battalion, that side of military, and he's completely powerless. So, man, a time comes when you are supposed to harness all of your skills together, and right at that time, your mind makes you powerless. How many times have you seen that? There is a student who is so ready for his exam, and he's sitting in exam and he got nervous, and all his studies are in vain now. He cannot harness those teachings right at the moment when he needed it most. You know, so this happens. I mean, I can go on and on these examples, but I hope you it makes sense and you understand that you need to be that powerful. You need to have check on your mind and mental patterns to be able to harness your skills. These five techniques that we taught, you should be able to harness at that time. Then only it will be beneficial, right? How do you do that? For that, it is important that you make some lifestyle changes. Some of them that I can quickly tell you, which any nutritionist will tell you to make your life better. Even otherwise, it's not only for anger management, but it's very important that you have right amount of sleep. You give enough importance to exercises in your life, and pay attention to the diet. As they say, the sattvic food. It's important that you have food which is very digestive, and I mean, you know, how of all of it. So all of these are very, very important. These are the basic lifestyle changes. Until you make them, you are not ready for your larger leap. To take that giant leap, you need to make your body ready, your mind ready. Your body should be supple enough to embrace the changes, and then you sit for meditation. Vihangam yoga, the technique of Vihangam yoga is taught to you. Whoever is interested, I mean, it takes only 10 minutes to learn, and there are instructors available throughout the globe. Wherever you are, you don't need to worry. So you just need to learn this. You don't need to come anywhere, you don't need to go anywhere. You learn this sitting at your home, and in this, even this period of this lockdown, you can just sit for 10 minutes, start doing meditation. And so we were touching this point every now and then, the equanimity. So that equanimous state is acquired through regular practices of meditation, making yourself spiritual, imbibing those philosophies into your lives, what we call spirituality. And this everything is possible by regular practice of meditation, being in right companies, what we call satsang, and making yourself human, which means that humane principles, humane uh, life patterns should emerge right from within you, and you should put yourself into the services of other human beings and creatures, which is essentially called seva. So sadhana, which is meditation, satsang, being in right company, and seva, services towards other humans, being able to make them also spiritual, let their lives also transform into righteous way, let them also have the virtues that you have started in their lives. All of these together is something that makes you spiritual. It makes you closer to yourself. There is a journey in this outside world that we have been traveling. We travel every day. Did you also know that there is a journey within? There is a journey to come back home. We are going away. We need to reverse the flow. We need to go home. We need to go to the source. And when you are closer to that going home process, you become powerful. and you will be able to harness your energies, much higher powers at your disposal. Why only these 5 steps of anger management? You can harness and tap into that energy. And you, without you noticing even, you start acquiring those, you start becoming a better person, you start becoming a different person altogether. There are a lot of kind of spiritual powers that you start acquiring, that finally all of this result into the equanimous state that we spoke about. But even the beginning, the journey of this meditation and all of these processes making you Vihangam yogi, what happens? You start becoming calmer, start becoming. So there is one of the experiments which had been done which says that alpha waves increase permanently, which means that you are more calm. So even in that heat of situation, there will come a day when you don't need to practice these 5 principles. You are a different person altogether. Anger cannot touch you because you are no more the same angry person. If anger from within you dies, no one can be angry with you, as you know. So even today, since you are still in the process of transformation, people will get angry with you, but that anger will not touch you. It will not perturb you to the extent it used to do earlier. And suddenly, you are into a different zone. You start enjoying this. And again, this has a cascading effect. So you enjoy, you are a better person, you have tasted the success. As they say, success is the biggest tonic. Now you are more successful. Next time something goes more wrong, someone is more angry, you are still able to take it. You get a little perturbed, you get a little angry, you get this thing, but you are a lot more controlled. It doesn't disturb you to the extent that it becomes a mental disorder for you, for that matter. So the real changes, the real transformations automatically dawn in you if you practice the meditation of Vihangam yoga and other principles, which is exactly what I did, and which is why I am a better person today for sure. I obviously cannot and shouldn't be compared with anyone else around me or anyone for that matter in this world. What I can do and what I must do is compare myself with what I was 10 years, 10 years yesterday and today. And I see there is a clear progression in right direction. And to answer you finally in a single statement, yes, Vihangam Yoga has touched my to the extent that no more anger can overpower me. No more anyone else's anger can overpower me. I have control on that, and I can control in that heat of moment also. I know my answers are a little longer than what I should have, but I somehow always believe that there are no quick fixes to the permanent problems that we have in our lives, and we must understand it completely, which is why I took a little more time than what I should have done to explain this concept of heat. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. Like I think, as professionals in the world, like I think we have to do this root cause analysis, which you just beautifully did for us. So thank you. I think that's such an important. You've raised so many important points there about, the subtle nature of the science of spirituality, Vihangam Yoga. There's this great analogy which I heard a few years back. I think it was from my father or someone close to me, which is, if you just pretend that if you write a word, some word with a marker on a fan, and then if you read that word, it'll be very easy to read. But then as soon as you turn the fan on, it's very difficult to read. It becomes so fast paced and so, so uncontrolled that being able to see what it actually is very difficult. And I think, in that analogy, I was reminded of that analogy as he was speaking, because as he just beautifully said, we have to become more still and we have to become more self-aware. and we have to go toward that destination of equanimity. So, yeah, thank you for that very detailed, explanation of this entire concept. I think it really helps us a lot. Um, so, I think, I'd like to end on uh, one question, which is, maybe a little interesting. I think there's a lot of people out there who will empathize with trying to do this, but struggle with it. And that is, can anger ever be justified? So, if you're a parent and your child is maybe out of line, if you're a master of spirituality and your disciple is, perhaps not going on the path which is best for them, we have seen in our own lives that in both scenarios, anger is sometimes expressed in order to help a person to succeed and to go in the right way. So, in these kinds of scenarios, can we say that anger is justified? And if it is, then how do we determine what the right level of anger is to express?
I must thank you for this question, because until we have touched this particular question, we haven't touched all the aspects of anger that we must have discussed. So thank you for that. Please understand there are three different types of angers. One is the sudden anger, which we all discuss mostly about right now. The second is what we call controlled anger. And third, I'll call dispositional anger. So the third is more of taking you towards mental disorders, which we tried touching in. It's more about when you certainly need medical help and you should be taking some initial therapies before you start doing your regular practices. So let's not touch about third. First one we have discussed. The second one, controlled anger, which what you are, what is subject matter right now, what you said. So anger is sometimes important, justified. But let me warn you here, every anger, a mind tries to justify that. We are not talking about that every anger. And how to differentiate that? Very simple. In the heat of moment, when I am getting angry or when I am showing I cannot get angry, then that is not the controlled anger. In the heat of moment, which it is when I have to be angry, I am not angry from within and I show that anger on the other person. There is a concept in Eastern philosophies when we say that bhai binu ho hina priti. Sometimes you need to show your power to be able to grab the attention of other person, to be able to acquire their love even, So you need to show that fear, especially to the kids, to, as you said, the parents to their kids and students, the disciple and guru relationship. You sometimes need to do that because sometimes the power of, even in the field of corporates. So we always say that the forces of competition are the greatest forces. What does it mean? The forces of fear, when you know that your annihilation can take place, you can be overpowered and succumbed to your competition, is when you take the larger leaps, the giant leaps, So it is important that you shouldn't get rid of this power of fear, I'll say. So you should harness it properly. So yes, there is a definition of anger, which is controlled anger, which is an anger which you produce, you showcase as if you are extremely angry or you are angry, which you are not. You are not being consumed by that anger. Anger, as they say, consumes everything that comes in the way, but first it consumes you, yourself. So you are not getting consumed, and you are obviously not consuming other person, rather you are trying to direct to a certain direction. So that anger which you are not angry is certainly justified. and there is a need of that anger. There can be situations when that anger is shown and should be shown, but you are eligible to show this anger only when you are no more angry and you are not angry. So many a times you are very angry, and then you, for example, follow these 5 steps and you are not angry now, and you know that you need to show this anger for a certain situation only if you have tested, you have checked, you have checked your breath also, and you know now that you are not angry. You can exhibit that power of anger onto the other person or situation for the work to be done. So that is the only place where it is justified, that is the only way it is justified. And that point of time, yes, it is justified. It is important that that guru, that parent, show that anger to their kins.
Yes, lovely. And I think, that gives some solace to some of the people out there who are perhaps worried, that it's obviously, as you mentioned, we want to help everyone around us, and if helping a person means being stern, then obviously that's a very powerful tool which we should apply, most definitely. So, Lalichi, I think we've taken up a lot of your time, and obviously we're very, very happy that we got the chance to have this conversation. I'm just wondering if you had any closing thoughts for the people listening, people out there who struggle with anger, people who have been angry and have a lot of regret or guilt that they were angry. What would your final kind of thought be to share with them before we wrap up?
Yes, Avi, thank you too. In fact, I must say that even I explored some of the aspects that I didn't think I was aware of while talking to you. So thank you so much. Sometimes those powers, those energies help all of us when we are taking right steps in even though they are baby steps, but if they are in right direction, the all pervasive power helps all of us, including the speakers. So that's great. To close, uh, talking to those people, point number 1, please don't angry that you get angry so soon. Just start by these mini steps, those 5 steps that we spoke about. In that heat of moment, start changing your lifestyles, start becoming a better person. It's not only about your anger. You have a larger life than what you think. There is so much that life can give to you. It's a gift. There is a reason why it is called this moment is called present. You can use this moment to present yourself the best present ever produced. So please start utilizing that moment. Ask this question every moment to yourself. I keep asking even today, am I adding value at this very moment? Am I adding value at this very moment? So the value addition can be to yourself, to the world, to people around you, to even entertainment sometimes becomes a value addition, because you sometimes need to freshen up. You need to um, take little side step to come back again onto the main rhythm. So even that is a value addition. But check yourself that you had given yourself 1 hour of entertainment. Are you still indulged in that entertainment for 4 hours or 5 hours? So you should keep a check an eye over whatever you are doing. Change your lifestyle. Go out and run, sweat. Trust. Nothing is more revealing than getting that sweat out of your body and feeling that relaxation, that momentary liberation. It's very powerful. So do some exercise which really takes sweat out of you. Eat right foods. Eat sattvic food. Sleep properly. Sleep adequately. Know that sleeping less is not a solution to the tight schedules that you have, because you can do much more in the same amount of time if you have slept properly, adequately, and meditate. Meditation is liberation. Meditation is liberating. It will give you more time. Usually we have tendency to say that 10 minutes nahi hai mere paas. I don't have those 10 minutes. But please understand, those 10 minutes can take away 2 hours of your sleep. It can solve your problems quicker than you think. It enhances your memory power. It gives you more alpha waves, less delta waves, to bring more awareness, more alertness from within you. Multiple benefits. Anger gets managed on its own. We don't need to talk so much about anger. If we are sitting for meditation and making our lifestyle, which makes us still, makes us more controlled, the mind gets controlled in this process of spiritual enhancement, spiritual advancement, automatically everything else, automatically, I use the word and I repeat third time, automatically all of this gets done. They say that you don't need to do much, it gets done automatically. You also keep on trying innumerable things to get innumerable results and end up getting no results. And there is one master stroke, this Vihangam Yoga. If you do it, if you are part of this one master stroke can give you all innumerable solutions that you would have ever wanted in your life. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. I love talking to all of you.
Thank you so much, Lalit. And, folks, if you're out there and you're wondering, what you should do, I hope we've been able to give you something to think about today, something to take away and apply to your life. Please remember those 5 steps. Please remember all the things we, touched on. Definitely feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure Lalit as well is, more than happy to come back and speak to any of the questions you have. So definitely do get involved and let us know how we can help you, help the people around you by being less angry and being able to take in the anger of another person. Like a yogi, a yogi is the most still, and we are all aspiring in our own lives, whether we know it or not, to imbibe those qualities within ourselves. So we're really excited to have more conversations with Lalit in the near future. But for today, that's where we're going to end. Once again, our topic for this week was understanding anger, and we will see you again in a very short amount of time. So thank you, everyone, and stay safe. Jai Sukhdev.